Hello, welcome to CaneClips. Today we're talking about irrigation scheduling tools. We're in Mackay and looking at some of the tools that are available. Okay, so what we've got here, Rob, is a couple of the new tools that can be used for irrigation scheduling. We've got a capacitance probe, which is an electronic meter. You install this into the ground, dig a hole and slide it in, and it has a little sensor every 10 centimeters located down the length of the tube. And those little sensors send out a little pulse through the soil, and they measure the soil moisture that's in the soil at each of those layers. So what that allows you to do, if you've got a paddock like you've got that's quite dry and you get a little shower of rain on the top, you can see how deep it goes because you can see which sensor picks it up. So it might only soak down 20 or 30 centimeters, then you might have a dry patch and a patch down the bottom. If you get a really big rainfall event, you might see that it soaks down for the whole length of the probe. Yeah. So that's an electronic capacitance meter. So that's the bit that does the reading in the ground, and that's attached to this little logger, which is called a wasp logger. This logger logs, you can set it to do whatever you like, but what we've got it doing today is logging each hour and sending the data each day. So you can see there's no buttons, there's no screens, there's nothing on this logger. So all of the data from this is just sent up to the clouds, and then you log on to the internet back at the office, and that's where you get the data from the system. Right. So that's one of the options. So
how many similar ones are there out in the marketplace?
Yeah, there's a number of these systems, the capacitance probe systems, probably 4 or 5 systems on the market. A bit of an internet search will show you all of those different systems. They all work in a similar sort of way. Electronic pulses sent through the soil to measure the soil moisture. Some of them have a bit different logger sort of box, but the same sort of principle.
Right.
And they cost around about $2,500 or $3,000 per individual site in the field.
Right. And the question would be, how many of these would you have on a farm?
Well, ideally you'd have one of those under each major soil type or each major irrigation system. But just having 1 or 2 on the farm, just getting a bit of a feel for where the moisture soaks when you get some rain, or how much water the crop's using. The crop's using around 3 or 4 millimetres a day at the moment, so a system like this keeps you in touch with where your soil moisture is, how deep the rainfall's gone, and what sort of crop demand you've got. Just helps you manage and schedule your irrigation, which is much more finely than what you can do without this sort of gear.
So once you installed one of these, how often would you need to go back? Once a week? Once a month?
Well, you don't need to go back because all of the information comes from the website. They claim that the battery is good in there for 5 years, so I mean you can install it in the paddock, put the little logger out to the side on a star picket so that the radio, it's communicated with the phone system, so it goes through the phone network. So if you've got reception on your mobile phone, you'll be able to pick that up on your internet or on your smartphone, and you'll be able to use that information from that probe to help manage irrigation.
Good.
Okay, so the other thing that we've got here today is just a little, it's called a G-Dot. This is just a very simple, very cheap irrigation scheduling thing. It's just a little sensor, it's a little piece of gypsum in a block really, and you just bury that down into the active root zone. So you put it down about 25 or 30 centimetres deep in the profile, and you can see on here there's a whole range of yellow dots. We've had this soaking in some water before we've installed it, and that's why they're all up. But what happens is when all of the dots are showing, the soil is wet, and as the dots tick over, it just shows you as the soil dries out. So they're quite big, quite visible. The idea of this is you just mount this on a star picket next to the block. As you drive past in your tractor or go past on your four-wheeler, you can see what moisture is in your block at the depth of the root zone. So even though it might look like it's dry on the surface, you might have good moisture down at 300 mils, and this is quite a simple way of just demonstrating whether you need to irrigate or not.
So what sort of cost are those, Brad?
So these are around $300. So much cheaper. Those ones probably, $3,000. These are around $300. So, a couple of these around the farm, a few of the major soil types under major irrigation schemes will just give you a bit of a good idea about where your soil moisture is and what's going on.
Still better than scraping your heel in the dirt?
Oh, much better than scraping your heel in the dirt, because you've got an actual measure down in the active root zone, not just on the surface.
Good.
Yep, absolutely.